Hello and welcome to the first MMA Patter Podcast. In this episode, I sit down with one of my karate coaches, Alex Muir, and we discuss the greatest ever fighter. I hope you enjoy the episode.
Right, that's us rolling now. So, yeah, we've had a wee chat about a few things and then we had a wee discussion about the greatest ever. So, I think we've all got different opinions. The whole thing about the greatest ever, I think, is it's so subjective. You can't really have somebody that you say he's definitely it or that person's definitely it.
It's an interesting concept. It's a wee bit like it's a bit like saying your favourite song versus the greatest song ever written.
Yeah.
It's a wee bit like that. You know, the White Christmas may have sold more singles, but is it any better than
Stairway to Heaven
or some Stairway to Heaven? Or, you know, you can talk about genre changing, so songs that changed the world.
Yep.
And then we can apply that back to fighters that changed the concept of what fighting is, or win the world over.
Yeah, totally.
And then it becomes, but then it could just be down to favourite, I think. It's a really tricky question, I think.
Definitely.
I've got my own. Muhammad Ali would be the greatest of all time because he told us he was,
Yeah,
because he
exactly.
probably was. But if you really know boxing, then you look at Sugar Ray Leonard, or
Yeah.
Sugar Ray Robinson,
Yep.
or guys like Willie Pep, and these guys who fought 147 fights or something. Or Julio Cesar Chavez. Then is Ali better than them, you know? Is Ali better than them? I don't know. So then he becomes my favourite.
Yeah.
So whether he's the greatest or my favourite, I'm not really sure.
It's so subjective because different weight classes.
That's right.
And then what the level of competition was.
That's right.
So
Absolutely.
I think Ali fought the majority of the best fighters in his day at his heavyweight.
Yeah, he finished everybody. He cleared out the 60s, and well into the mid 70s he probably cleared everybody out.
Yeah.
Probably. You know what, if you look at anything on the YouTube or any video that talks about the 10 greatest boxers of all time, they always have Jack Johnson in there.
Yeah.
And Jack Johnson lost the world title, I don't know, before the First World War or 1915 maybe.
Yes, I remember that.
So
yeah.
there's very little footage of him, bar a couple of shaky videos. How do we actually know that he was the great champion? Or the person he beat was 12.5 stone.
Yeah.
Kenny Burns chased him all over the world, fought in Australia, beat him soundly, but it's all down to the competition.
Yeah, totally.
You know,
he was a heavyweight, wasn't he?
He was a heavyweight, heavyweight
12
champion,
stone,
12 stone, tiny wee guy for
Yeah.
heavyweights of the day. And then something that really interests me is if athletes improve as dramatically as they do in athletics and sport, other sports like running sports, do they also improve to the same level in boxing? So were the fighters in the early 1900s simple journeymen compared to the super athletes of the 2000s? I'm not sure how that works. How would Jack Johnson have stood up against one of the big Russians or
Klitschko?
Yeah, how would he have stood up against these guys? He probably weighed, I would say Johnson probably weighed about 14 stone at his heaviest. People were smaller, average height was 5'8" or something.
Yeah, give or take, yeah.
So how does that stand up? But that doesn't take away from his legacy of the day, but it changes the concept of the greatest of all time, I think. And it changes it.
Yeah.
And at least we've got boxing, which goes back to probably records, 1700s. We talk about the great boxers of the day. So we've got hundreds of years of boxing, but we've only got 25 years of mixed martial arts, 26 years, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So how do you have the greatest of all time when it's only been going 26 years?
Yeah, with MMA, I think we talked about this at training, but about eras. So in the very first eras of MMA, you had Hickson Gracie, and he was undefeated.
That's right.
Son of
300 fights or something, 300 and something.
300 something, but I think there was only 11 that are fully
there's
professional.
Only 11, that's right, absolutely.
But
Tudo and all that stuff.
The Gracie Challenge, I think he fought everyone under the sun under the Gracie Challenge banner, I think.
Yeah.
So I think he was the first greatest ever.
Yeah.
But then, rightly so, they didn't put him in the first UFC because he was a scary man.
Yeah,
you look at him and you go, that guy's probably going to beat me up regardless if you're Ken Shamrock.
Yeah, especially his last fight where he had his head shaved and he looked amazing, didn't he? The Last Samurai and all that kind of stuff. But, I mean, even then though, the world didn't know anything about Hickson Gracie. Nobody knew anything about him. No. He was really just known in Brazil and then probably in Rio. It was the UFC initial with Hoist Gracie that actually put the Gracie family on the map.
Yeah.
And so if George St. Pierre's asked who he thinks is the greatest of all time, he says Hoist Gracie.
Right.
Because he started it all.
Yeah.
Would Hoist Gracie have stood in the same octagon as George St. Pierre? And
Well,
won. Then it's a different game, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely.
And he fought Matt Hughes, didn't he? Matt Hughes ragdolled him,
Yeah.
submitted him and all that. So greatest of that, and not even an era, but greatest at that level at the beginning. Hoist Gracie, for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. But if you look at the great fighters in other martial arts that boxing being the one that we talk about the most probably, and that's, look at Mike Tyson. Would Mike Tyson have beaten Muhammad Ali? These questions can't really be answered, because the training that Ali did in the early 60s to get him where he was, he fought as a light heavyweight, a supreme athlete. Then we look at Mike Tyson in an era with performance enhancing drugs and savage. So it's a different world. But what I always think is, if Ali had started boxing in the 80s, Ali would have been a different athlete or boxer than he would have been in the 60s. So everything's different. Food and the knowledge we have in performance enhancing stuff, totally different. Training's changed so much. So Ali wouldn't have been the same fighter. He might be probably been a bigger man for the start. So greatest of all time, so difficult to talk about. Totally. I just think it's Ali because my mother loved Ali. We talked about him in the house like he was almost a member of the family when his fights were coming up. We didn't want to see him getting beaten. It was really bizarre.
Of course, yeah.
We really
What's the fan
thought
base?
Ali was just such a great guy and such a lovely person. And my mother, I've a great story about my mum with my dad's, with the wages of the house. My dad was the only one that worked, and my dad made £9 a week, and my mum had her housekeeping money in her pocket and went round to the shops, and the local illegal bookie in Maryhill round there offered her huge odds on Sonny Liston to beat Cassius Clay in the first fight. The first fight, 63, whatever it was, 64. And he put the odds up. He was giving my mum 10-1 on Liston, and my mum couldn't gamble the money, but she was sure, 100% sure, that Cassius Clay was going to beat him. And when you asked her why, she said it was because he was so good looking. And that was her reasons for it. But the truth, the interesting, that was her, what she would tell people, but the actual truth is my mother's family all boxed, and my grandmother made all the gowns for Glasgow boxers, the silk gowns and the shorts.
Oh wow.
So she made them all for Jackie Patterson and Walter McGowan and all these guys. So my family knew about boxing, and boxers were in the house all the time, in my mum's house as a wee girl, so she knew about it. So she knew how special Ali was. So that's ingrained in my memory, in my mind, how important that generation was when he stood up and how he felt. And we all the world kind of listened with kind of a bit of reticence about the stances he made about the black Muslims, and we all thought, that doesn't sound right. But at the same time, we still loved him. So he's always going to be the greatest of all time. Yeah. But go back to the 40s and Joe Louis, what a fighter he was.
Rocky Marciano.
Well, Rocky, if we look at the way the UFC has talked about the greatest of all time, the heavyweights having defended it 3 times. Marciano defended it, I think 7 times, but was 49-0. Yeah. Didn't lose in 49 fights. So he must be on those, if you take it on those grounds, he must be the greatest fighter of all time. Until somebody else wins 50, who I think Mayweather did. So that makes him the greatest of all time. Or does it? It's really bizarre. Yeah. I can't figure it out.
Well, Mayweather, he's an unusual person in that he transcended media as well. So he started off like a typical boxer, like he's coming from a boxing family as well. Right. And I think his original nickname was like Pretty Boy Floyd, and he was very respectable. That's right. Good defensively, as he is now.
Fantastic fighter.
And he just realised it's not making any money, so he started becoming just this lavish, like completely out of the picture, just celebrity. Effectively,
that's absolutely.
And then everybody hated him, so much they wanted to see him lose.
That's right.
Which undoubtedly he wouldn't, because he's that good defensively.
That's right.
So he's probably taken that page out of Ali's book. He's taken that page
100%
of I'll probably do what I'm good at, and being defensive, and I'm going to do something else. I'll do that mental warfare. So he's probably watched every single video that Ali's ever put out, every single press conference, and he analysed it like a scientist, because ultimately that's what he has to do to win these fights. So he's analysed what he said, how that reacted to his opponent, and just made himself this larger than life character. Yeah. And he's undefeated still. It's
dead interesting, isn't it? Ali always said that he, or was he accused of it and then agreed that might be, he maybe didn't say it originally, but Ali was a wrestling fan, professional wrestling fan. So and And in those days in America, the wrestlers would just live out of vans and they would travel from town to town.
Carnies, wasn't it?
Carnies and fairs and all that, but they were really famous. There was a guy called Gorgeous George, and he did that "I am the greatest" thing. And Ali saw him doing it. Ali was this young fighter that needed publicity because there was loads of young fighters, and there was loads of young black fighters, and they needed to do something special. So Ali adopted that "I am the greatest," and he would shout and the poetry, and that was all taken from professional wrestling according to Ali, right? So that makes it dead interesting. So would Ali have ever achieved? Because it was notoriety. Because like Mayweather, people wanted to see him get beat, especially in the South. And when he came to Britain in the mid-60s to fight Henry Cooper the first time, he was detested in Britain. It was "Shut that loud mouth up" was the front headline in the papers.
Really?
Shut that loud mouth up. So Ali became a real world figure, a man of the world when he came back after his retirement, because before it, America was at war in Vietnam.
Yep.
So he went against people were sending their sons over to Vietnam. He said he wasn't going to go, and they accused him of using his notoriety or his popularity, whatever way you look at it, whatever side you're looking from, to not go. So he was hated. So people want to see Ali get beat. But he gained that when he came back, and he wasn't as quick, and he was using courage and guts, and he became a world figure. He became almost Nelson Mandela of sport, I think. So that's why for me Ali has got that greatest of all time, but it doesn't mean the best boxer, because I don't know if he was. I don't know. Ken Norton beat him. Joe Frazier beat him. And that was when he was doing okay in his career. He get beat later on. His last couple of fights, he get beat Larry Holmes. It was a horrible event. I watched it with tears in my eyes watching that fight. And he fought another guy in Jamaica after that. I can't remember his name, but no, I can't remember. It was in Razor Ruddock. It was somebody like that. But at the end of the day, Ali was beaten. So did that make Joe Frazier the greatest? It's hard to say, but for me, great. Actually, I use great in the classic sense, but great doesn't have to be best. It just means the great. Yeah. It's a word that can be used to describe a monument. A great monument, a capital G. So that makes it Ali the greatest for me, and it also makes, I think, George St. Pierre the greatest mixed martial artist of this era, since 1996.
Yeah, I like that opinion of GSP. I think actually one of my first MMA fights that I've sat down and watched properly was the second GSP fight with BJ Penn.
Right, okay.
And I remember that because there was a whole big build-up.
Yeah.
Like they were, even at that stage, they were both considered to be fantastic fighters.
Penn was an awesome fighter.
Yeah. Oof. Absolutely. The jiu-jitsu skills, which back in those days were unheard of.
That's right.
And then I think GSP at the time was still a brown belt, but he was submitting guys that were really good, and he was the first, what I would consider like a true mixed martial artist, because you would have guys like that would combine a bit of two arts, but he put everything together, really.
So interesting guy, he ends up, whether it's publicity or not, but he was in the running to fight for Canada and wrestling and the Olympics and all that, so whether that was part of his publicity drive, I don't know, but it's still a great story. But look at the original UFC roster, Ken Shamrock and Dan Severn and all these guys, Gracie. They came in with what they had, and they tried to impose their expertise on what they had on the expertise of what the other person had, and we discovered that boxers very quickly got overtaken by wrestling and not so much jiu-jitsu, but we were finished with jiu-jitsu, but they were brought to the ground by wrestling. So it started to streamline and change, and strikers didn't become as important. Mark Coleman changed forever, because I think he is really one of the original elder statesmen of mixed martial arts, Mark Coleman. Royce Gracie obviously, but Mark Coleman changed the whole direction and made wrestling the most important aspect of mixed martial arts, I think.
Well, then he was able to combine wrestling with striking on the ground.
That's right.
And even though he was so rudimentary striking, when you looked at him, you're like, wow, he's just a gorilla.
He's an absolute gorilla. And they were headbutting in those days. So if you're lying on the ground and you've got you're in somebody's guard, if they're going to headbutt you, everything changes. No point in risk control if you're going to get hit in the face. So everybody's attempted defence had to change because of Mark Coleman, because he was so strong. Chemo Leopold and these guys, the same, and Ken Shamrock. They can't take anything away from these people, but they wouldn't survive in the modern era. I don't believe.
No.
But that's only if you put them in a time machine and you bring them forward unchanged.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure Ken Shamrock and these guys would have fought at high level, learned to strike at high level, learned to box, learned to take down. I'm sure they would. So we can't say Dan Severin's not as good a fighter as Alistair Overeem. We can't do it.
No.
We can just say they were so different and
absolutely.
lived in a different era. It's a dead interesting concept, and I don't think we can. Greatest of all time for me is greatest meaning not the best fighter ever, because who knows who that is.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like to tackle one of those big African wrestlers we see, those big
the
gigantic
Senegal
guys. Yeah, so
wrestlers,
let's bring one of them on and see what they can do. So greatest is a concept.
Yeah, I think actually those Senegalese wrestlers do actually fight for that South African promotion, Extreme FC or something.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Well, that would be interesting.
I don't think many of them have came over to the UFC.
Right,
I actually need to Google that. Actually, I totally forgot about that sport.
There's an hour and a half long video on YouTube of a young European mixed martial artist going over there to train with them.
Yeah.
And he sits there for their world championship, and he watches it and he trains in it, and it's incredible to see these guys. These guys aren't built out of a whole life of sport. These guys are just massively strong, genetic freaks, and 1,000 years of genetics come right in there, and they're absolutely incredible. But for me, BJ Penn, without a doubt, must be one of the best mixed martial artists of all time if we look at that. But I can't, Matt Hughes, but I can't get past GSP as being at the absolute pinnacle of what mixed martial arts has now become. And perhaps if he was fighting in the 90s, he wouldn't have done half the stuff he'd have done as a Kyokushin karate fighter, and he'd have kicked Roy Hoist Gracie in the legs until Gracie stopped trying to dive in on him or something, punched him in the face maybe, and once Gracie got hold of him, he might have got him down and out. But in the modern era, if you look at it as a broad base and then a sharp point, he sits right on the sharp point.
But he's always ever evolving. He wasn't just kind of
absolutely
thinking, right, my wrestling's great, let's stop doing that now. He was continually working with the best fighters. He had a great team, of course.
That's right.
But they grew together. So I think when he started off doing MMA, him and Faraz were just Faraz Zahabi's head coach, just friends. And they were both at the same level. But then I think they organically became student and teacher. I think Faraz was more cerebral.
Absolutely.
I think he's even got a degree or PhD in philosophy. So he's not even like an actual martial artist. He's just an educated man that just really loves to fight.
That's right.
And GSP was probably more the fighter in that sense. I think he might not be the best teacher, but I think he's one of the best students.
That's right. I think so too. And the secret to being a good student is to be a good copier.
Yeah.
That's the secret.
Copycat.
If you can copy something that they do, you will sink in, it will drain into you what they do, and if you can take that from a number of different people, then you become good at what they've shown you. Obviously the original teachers are probably the best at what they do, but you're learning from that, and you take in what you can. I think to look as we know, George St. Pierre's retired from mixed martial arts. I hope he stays retired. The other day, and I hope he stays retired. I don't want to see him coming back. Especially since the era and that weight is starting to turn again back to wrestling now. So the Magomedov and the Russians, Czechs, the Chesneys, they're all coming in, and they're all massive wrestlers with back to ground and pound. And I always watch GSP fighting with my heart in my mouth. He finished every fight with his eyes swollen shut, his cheek ripped, his nose battered, and I always thought at some point somebody's going to beat him really, really, really badly. I always worried about him. I would always watch and go, oh God, I hope he gets through this. It's ridiculous. And when he fought Michael Bisping, I thought that was a fantastic example of what it means to be one of the best martial artists in the world. But Bisping actually came through the very unpopular, never really doing that much, to becoming very popular fighter now, and much admired. But what he was a stand-up kickboxing style fighter who learned to fight on the ground, and he mastered it enough that you would be constantly surprised at how good he was getting. Whereas GSP, you were constantly surprised at how good he got. And you were never going to go, well, that's a good fight under his belt, because the next time he fights, it'll get better. He was just at the absolute top of his game. And he beat Koscheck with a left jab.
Yeah.
Left jab, that's what you beat him with.
Mm-hmm.
Knocked him all over the place with a simple boxer's left jab, the first thing you learn.
Yeah.
It costs you national standard wrestling.
Yeah.
I think too that the difference in the American system and the European system compared to Britain. I went to school in Glasgow. There was no wrestling.
No.
Nobody. You didn't even box at school. You played football.
Yeah.
And if you'd forward-thinking PE teachers, you might play. I played basketball because I couldn't play football. I was running football, but I played basketball quite well. And it was the same teacher because he was a basketball player. He'd also played beach games, so he played volleyball and these things. Okay. So we learned that, but there was no. Whereas in America, Canada, you're learning to wrestle. Mm-hmm. It's a different world. Yeah. So your people they're coming out of school and going to college, and they're wrestling at high level, and we still talk about college wrestling as being almost the pinnacle of wrestling in America. We talk about college standard all-state wrestlers. Yeah. So they must come in at a whole different level from us. And if we're learning, I think Britain's got a good history of karate and a good history of boxing and kickboxing. I think we have. I think we're good at it, but we're not wrestlers. No. So we've had to learn everything. Where they're coming in with that skill. Yeah. I'm really fascinated by mixed martial arts. I think it's an incredible thing to watch.
It's like watching boxing from like the invent of the Queensberry rules.
That's exactly right.
Because I remember looking over stuff. Like I think the year after they brought the Queensberry rules in, a competition somewhere in London. Yeah. And the fights were not just won by knockouts or decision; they were won by like submissions and kicks.
Submissions, that's right. There was the best of them didn't kick. And it was seen to be mean when they kicked, but it wasn't against the rules. Yeah. Throwing was allowed, but it was only allowed when you were in a state of exhaustion. The referee would break you up normally if you were still bouncing and can't get you, hook your arm to break you up. But as the fight was progressing, you would be allowed to wrestle. It was only when the crowd got annoyed, the referee would step in, because there was that much money getting gambled. That the money had to keep going, because that's what paid the fighters and paid everything. Paid the police probably.
Yeah, so of course.
Yeah, and the fight it was really stopped. It was quite civilised in a way where you if you get knocked down, the fight could be stopped, and you had to then you had a minute to get back to toe the line and stuff. So in its own mad way, it was quite civilised. Mm-hmm. But they fought with thin leather gloves or bare knuckles, right up to Jim Corbett. I think might have been the first gloved heavyweight champion of the world. I think it might have been Jim Corbett who beat Johnny O'Sullivan, who goes back to the Boston Strong Boy. You know, he would go from pub to pub. He drank kegs of beer a day, and he would sort of fight any man in the house for $20, and he would fight. He died. He joined the Salvation Army and went all over America campaigning against alcohol. And he died, and he looks 80 when he died, and you read he was only 60. It's an incredible man, but that's the closest we'll come, because if you think mixed martial arts took away the rules. Yeah. Originally, So when you take that back to boxing before they took away the rules, it's exactly the same sport. It's exactly the same, and I'll bet you the big Indian wrestlers and the Greeks and these guys and the Japanese must have been really, really good at it. Mm-hmm. But when you add in that big, heavy Irish, American hands of stone, putting them in vinegar and putting them in petrol, which they used to do to toughen the skin up. Oh really? They would sit and soak them in petrol and to try and dry them out so that they wouldn't split. Oh, really? That's how they toughened their hands up. It's incredible.
Crazy.
Oh my god. And you get a wee Japanese man with the average height in Japan would be 5'6" or something, and these gigantic big Irishmen and Scotsmen living in America, 6 foot, would be huge, would be a giant in those days. Yeah. Would be 15, 16 stone, flattening them. Yeah, absolutely. So it was raw barbarism over 20 and 30 rounds. Mm-hmm. But then you got up to mid-1990s, and suddenly we're doing no time limits, no gloves, just can't bite or gouge to the eyes, and you can strike to the groin if you want. Mm-hmm. It's just incredible. It must have changed. Mixed martial arts changed the whole perspective in the way we view fighting now.
Yes, absolutely.
And Conor McGregor, who could have been in most people's minds maybe getting there to be probably one of the greatest martial artists we've ever seen, is rapidly receding, I think.
Well, he's fought, his last 2 fights were 2 of the greatest people.
That's right.
Of this current era.
That's right.
If not ever. Maybe there's an argument to say he's one of the best
ever.
Oh,
aye. Well, he might be. We'll find out in the next 3 years probably whether, or else he meets some wrestler, some puncher who knocks his head right off because he comes in too close.
Yeah, or the other person is Ben Askren.
Or who out wrestles him.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what would happen to somebody that is a better wrestler than Habib? What would he do at that point?
That's right.
I'd love to see that fight.
So would I. Or it could be an absolute snooze fest. The two men wrestling on the ground looking for holds. You know, it could be. You know,
that.
it's a wee bit. You know, you watch judo in the Olympics, and it's hard to watch.
Sometimes.
Yeah, because it's just about pulling each other's jackets and rolling about on the ground. To people who don't understand what the sport is, they always think you should for the first couple of rounds you should bring like drunk people on and you should really just throw them about and show your throws and then you have to fight real judo players because it just looks so boring to watch. And I think wrestling pretty much like that too. A wrestling commentator will be able to differentiate what's going on and show you what they're looking for, but it's a hard sport to watch.
Such intricacies.
Oh, it's a fantastic sport to watch. I love it. Khabib's an interesting guy.
Yes.
Interesting guy, tough, brought up hard, but Ben Askren, he's a different level. Olympic level wrestling. You know, wow. Conor McGregor couldn't have fought a worse fight than he fought Khabib. Couldn't have fought a worse fight. And couldn't fight a worse fight rather. Who on earth suggested? What was his corner thinking that was the way to fight him? I don't get that. I don't get it.
It's difficult when you're McGregor and you've got that hype behind you.
I suppose so.
And you want to go out and do what you've done before.
Yeah.
Because in a way it's worked.
Yeah.
So by deviating from that,
absolutely.
It would seem unusual to any rational person to like, what's brought me here?
Yeah.
I'm going to continue doing that.
Why would I change, I suppose? Maybe the fight was over so quickly that he didn't get a chance to evolve the fight as he was fighting and see what was happening. It was too quick anyway, he didn't have time to do anything. But I remember watching the last Ronda Rousey fight, and if we remember Ronda Rousey being touted as the greatest of all time.
For a female?
For a female, she was at that time because there was nobody else, but
no.
Dana White saying that she would beat Mayweather in a boxing match. And you go, really? You think that? Do you honestly think that?
It's more a kind of a publicity statement, isn't it?
It was hype.
Hype.
But that's actually, in professional sports, that is actually what it's all about.
Yeah.
It is all about hype. It's all about selling tickets. And when you listen to her corner, the advice she was getting as she was getting punched around the ring was, keep your jab up, keep your jab up. It was the simplest, most ridiculous boxing advice you could possibly imagine. Nobody was shouting, take her down. Nobody was shouting, keep moving, don't let her touch you. Keep your jab up, keep your jab up, keep your jab up. So her coach, who I know everybody hates him now, but I'm not sure if he's a good coach or a bad coach. He did very well up to that point when she started losing. He was a great coach.
Yeah.
And then suddenly he was a rubbish coach, so I felt for him.
Well, the thing is, he's, from what everybody seems to say, he's very boxing orientated.
Yeah.
And if you're a boxing coach that's very boxing orientated, that's what you want to be.
That's
but then
right,
if it's a different sport,
that's right.
We're not talking just about jabbing and like you have to, as a head coach for somebody in MMA, you have to know probably your place in that. Sometimes you might not give the best advice, but your guy to your left, who's the jiu-jitsu coach,
that's right,
might give some good advice.
That's right.
Or your guy to the right, that's your wrestling or kickboxing, or whatever the case, and you would go, you say something because you know what we need to do.
Absolutely.
And I think maybe a bit of ego got involved, or maybe he thought the boxing was going to win the fight, where Rousey's not a natural boxer, she's an Olympic level judoka. That's right. Again, talking back to rationality, would we not think that we go back to that as opposed to go to something that she's only learned in the past 4 years?
Absolutely.
Maybe doing something that she's done for the past 24 years.
That's right.
Maybe it would have been a better idea. But then hindsight, it's all about hindsight.
20/20 vision.
Yeah.
I saw Mike Tyson visiting their camp and I know he was there and she was hitting the pads and he was keen to get Mike Tyson's take on it and he was saying she's strong in the pads and she was incredibly quick on the pads. So she looked fantastic in the pads.
On the pads,
but I'm sure it was Mike Tyson that said it. I hope he made it up because it's a great one. He said everybody comes in with a good fight plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
And I think it was Mike Tyson.
Yeah. I think
and
that's
I guarantee a boxer will get stiff jabbed in the face 15 probably times around.
Yeah.
I would say 15, taking 15 punches to the head and around. Mixed martial artists might take a couple, and judo players have taken none.
Yes.
So she's come into from judo, which is a life as a child, as a life sport, without getting punched in the face.
Yeah.
And until you get punched in the face for the first time, and the lights blinking, and the world goes white for a second, and your brain has to renegotiate what it's been telling you. Until that happens to you, you've no idea what you're going to do.
No.
And that first one, the Holly Holmes kick, nobody would have taken that kick and just shrugged it off, that put her out.
Yeah.
But the second fight, the second one she got beat, keep moving, get up on the ground. Absolutely. Get suicide rolls, all those stuff she should have tried because it's mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
Why go in and box somebody who's a ferocious boxer? That was just ludicrous.
Yeah.
And it finished her career, and it's such a shame because she was a poster girl for mixed martial arts, and she was on the cusp of doing that youth engagement with the young kids and anti-bullying, and she really was starting to become a cultural icon.
Yeah.
And now it's back to WWE, which is in the days of the old boxers in the 40s, that was the sad route for them.
Oh really?
Yeah. Once they retired, they all went to professional wrestling, and they made fools of themselves. Primo Carnera was the world's heavyweight champion. He was I think, may have been the tallest up till the 90s, I think. And he ended up fighting bears and died penniless. So that was where they all went because they sold on their name, and they would come in boxing robes and they'd fight a wrestler and they'd get their arms broken, and then they'd fight bears and Gumsy lions and all that. So it became a carnival sideshow.
Yeah.
And the WWE is just the most impressive, well-funded, well-publicised carnival sideshow there is. So it's a shame to see her there. I felt sorry for her, and I felt that she was. I'm not an anti-Dana White person. I think he's done a fantastic amount of work for martial arts, but I think he used her. I think he abused her position. I think he rolled her up and threw her away. That's what I think. I think she should have fought somebody sitting on the middle roster, got her spirit back, got her name up, got a couple of big fights, not putting her back in from being beaten by one of the best kickboxers of all time, female boxers, to fight one of the most ferocious punchers. I thought it was just, that was, maybe we'll get a big one out of her for the money. Yeah. And I felt bad about that. I hate seeing that.
But it's a two-way street. I do feel bad for Rousey, but she's obviously made a lot of money.
Yeah, no, that's right.
And
that's right.
Ultimately, that's what you're in for.
That's right. That's true. That's true.
The thing that I kept on hearing about Rousey, about her second fight, was that they thought it was a fluke, her first fight, where she lost.
That's right. No, you're absolutely right.
And I think everyone, myself included, we all thought Rousey's going to beat her.
Absolutely.
It's going to be absolutely fine. But then that second fight came along, and there was a few things going up. So Rousey had done Entourage. Yeah. So she'd done a few films, done a few TV appearances. What somebody that didn't do Entourage was Amanda Nunes, who she fought in the second fight. Yeah. She didn't do any of those TV appearances. She didn't do any of that stuff. What she was doing when the Rousey had studio time was she was in the gym, getting gym time. And you only have so many hours in the day. That's right. And Rousey was getting, some people say rightly, some people say wrongly, pulled towards the media route, which she had the look she had. At the time, she had the kind of fear factor of being this amazing female fighter that beat everyone, literally beat everyone, up until one point, of course. But she was unable to fully commit to fighting, and as soon as you start not fully committing...
That's right. Plus the film industry, they spend their life telling you how wonderful you are. Yeah. So they tell you how brilliant you are, and you're completely won over by it, and it's almost like seduced by it, I think. You're seduced by it. But I still think, and listen, if any fighter needs to get a lesson in history, all you need to do is watch Rocky 3. Right? So there's Sly, there's Sly doing his thing, Rocky's out there on telly and he's doing silly sparring and selling his gloves, and Mr. T's in a basement somewhere doing one-arm chin-ups, what's your thoughts in the fight? It's just pain. So just look at Rocky 3 and go, well, I'm not going to do that, right? I'm not going to do that. I'm either going to fight fully, invest in it, and then I'm going to wait till that day's done and I retire early if I think Hollywood beckons me, because it must be incredible. Let Hollywood beckon me and let's move on to that once I've done my thing. But I do think once you get to a level, I think legacy becomes important. Yeah. And I think legacy takes more fighters back into the ring than anything else. I think Ali, I'd read that Ali was skint, he'd blown all his money. The Muslim organisation took a huge percentage of it, his managers took a lot of money, and I heard he was skint. But skint for Ali might not actually be skint for you and I.
So if he's got 5 Bentleys,
that's it. He's not doing too well, or he's got 3 houses and he has to sell one. So could he have lived? Probably, but I think it's more about legacy. And what surprised me most about Ali was when it came to it, he wasn't very smart.
No, he spent a lifetime getting punched in the face. Absolutely. Like after a while.
Absolutely. Yeah. But he had complete and utter belief in his own ability, and I think to get longitude or to get in a sport, you have to surround yourself by people who say, no, we're done now. And Angelo Dundee, who I've always admired, he's coached some of the best fighters I've ever been, but Angelo Dundee said in an interview it wasn't his place to tell Ali that he shouldn't fight, it was only his place to train him for it. And his famous doctor, Freddie Pacheco, did the medicals for Ali and found brain matter in his urine when he fought Larry Holmes, so he was excreting brain matter. So brain matter was leaving his brain, obviously, and getting into his system, and he was excreting it. So he said he wanted him not to fight, and Dundee said, Ali wants to fight, it's only my job to train him. And he thought his job was more than that. So Freddie Pacheco stepped out the Ali camp. Ali was taken for medicals with Don King. And suddenly the brain matter disappeared, and they didn't find it, and he was given license to fight Larry Holmes. When he fought Larry Holmes, he went on a starvation diet of carrot juice. So he looked trim, he had abs, and you could kind of see, but it was, if you watch the first round, Ali's head shaking, and he's not talking to himself. He's like he did before him, and he was between rounds he would nod his head to say, okay, I've got this, or he would shake his head to go, oof, I don't know if I can do this, but this was trembling, this was Parkinson's. So he fought in the throes of Parkinson's. So I think it's about surrounding yourself by somebody who loves you, who doesn't just, it's not just your manager, you know, he's been your manager since 1963 or something, so by 78 he's like your dad, or your uncle, or your best friend, and he should be. And I think the best relationships come from that. Yeah. You know, do you remember Barry McGuigan? He's a great commentator now, but a huge icon in Northern Ireland. Yeah. Maybe even part of the peace process at one time, Barry McGuigan, by reputation. But the minute he stepped away from his manager, his career declined. You know, he fought in 115 degrees in the open air in Texas, and fought
a Northern Irish guy fighting.
With his white skin. And when he came out, he thought his last round he got pushed out. He thought he was going to die. He thought he was going to die in the ring. So there must come a point where your coach has to say to you, right, son, we're not doing it anymore. You're done. And Ali didn't have that. The very man that you would think would have that team round him. His brother was in the team. His great friend was in the team. But no, nobody said to him, because he's paying everybody's wages. Yeah. So the greatest of all time is left sitting on his stool in round 10. They throw the towel in, and if you watch the fight, I tried to watch it. I went into a pub to watch it because it was on first one of these cable fights, but I couldn't watch it. I couldn't. But after the third round, I left. I was in tears watching it. He was so badly beaten, and people vilified Holmes for continuing the fight, but Holmes
he's a fighter.
It's a fight, but he held so many punches back, and he bounced so many punches off him rather than punching him over, and eventually was beckoning the referee in, and it was a terrible display for the greatest of all time. You know, so even the greatest of all time does that one fight more than they should, and the legacy can be wiped away. But Ali's legacy stays because he transcended sport, and I think that's the difference.
Yeah. You know? Well, the thing is, he was. I think people probably learned a lot from Ali and probably a lot more from his mistakes. Yeah, so 100%. Now, we've talked about GSP. I think GSP looks at Ali in the same way that a scientist looks at previous experiments. They go, this is what they did amazing. This is what they did really badly.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And he, probably GSP is the example. He's got a fantastic team around him. And he's got his family there, and he's got a good working relationship with everybody there, and he's sorted. But he's also, he's lost 2 fights. Arguably, he lost the Johnny Hendricks fight, but but he still got that win. He got it officially. That's a win.
Absolutely.
And out of a career, I can't really remember, almost 30 fights.
28 fights.
Is it 28 fights?
28 fights and 2 losses.
2 losses.
Wow. Wow, in mixed martial arts. So you're not fighting, like a boxer with 28 fights is fighting 28 boxers, and the rules and the styles are constrained by the human body. GSP's fighting a fantastic wrestler, a fantastic boxer, a fantastic jiu-jitsu player, a great mixture of all 3. So no, I think his experience and his legacy's greater than a lot of our previous great, as we've talked about, greatest of all times. You know? There's boxers you might not have heard of. Willie Pepper mentioned earlier was a great middleweight, fought 137 fights or something. He lost 3 or something. Julio Cesar Chavez fought 130 odd times, lost a few times. So wow, I mean, there's a real legacy to talk about. You know, and in Mexico, Julio Cesar Chavez will probably be the greatest of all time in Mexico. You know, Roberto Duran, you know.
Roberto Duran, Canelo Valle.
Oh Jesus, with fighters, you know.
Yeah, they
fighters, you know.
Coming out the readers.
So,
amazing.
Anyway, in any other environment, if Ali hadn't existed, and Sugar Ray Leonard would be probably touted as the media darling, greatest of all time.
Yeah.
I believe, and I think he was every bit the boxer that Ali was, if not better.
He's quicker because of middleweight.
Yeah. It's dead interesting. Well, I remember Sugar Ray Leonard fighting at lightweight. So he fought at lightweight, super lightweight, middleweight, super middleweight, and then did he not fight light heavy? His last fight was light heavy, I think.
I can't remember.
He came on in a dressing, in a robe, and with big giant shoulders in it, but his pockets were full of silver dollars from the casino, so as he would look heavier on the scales. So when he weighed in, because if he's so light, they might have had a thing about him fighting under a certain limit. So his pockets were full of silver dollars to make the weight. It's just incredible. But I think you'd be hard pressed. And then, you know, if you're going to look at Leonard, you look at Marvin Hagler, look at Tommy Hearns. There's a whole era. Thank you. There's a whole era of great middleweight fighters. So who becomes the greatest then? Isn't it? It's so hard to figure out, you know. So I think greatest takes a kind of folk legend about them. I think it takes the public's love of them. It takes a bit of their legacy, their outlook in life. Ali refusing to go to Vietnam, which was so unpopular, suddenly in 1975, as people were falling off helicopters trying to get out of Saigon at the end of the war, suddenly what Ali did appeared to be the very right thing to do. Whereas he wasn't forgiven for. Joe Louis joined the army. He was called up at World War II, and he spent the war doing demonstration fights and being used as a recruiting officer. That's what he was. He retired as a sergeant. He went down as a sergeant, but never, as far as I know, saw action or fired a rifle in anger. Probably trained in it. But so everybody said that Ali should have done what Joe Louis did. Now Ali's take on Joe Louis was a black heavyweight that was put up with by the white people. White people put up with Joe Louis because he was so good nobody could beat him. But he wasn't allowed supporter of human rights and civil rights because he was a man born in the 20s or in the early 1900s, fought in the 30s. And to watch what you were saying, he was actually, every picture you'll see of Joe Louis, he had a scowl in his face, and that was part of his thing. His trainer told him, do not be smiling in front of the cameras, especially if you beat a white guy, because it'll be seen to be uppity, as they would call it then.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah, so every photograph, have a look, you'll never see Joe Louis smiling. People thought he was standoffish and not a nice person. He was actually a terrific fella, great storyteller, great guy, great knowledge of boxing. People thought he was cold and standoffish and arrogant. He wasn't arrogant in the slightest. He was told, do not upset everybody by sitting smiling and laughing. Every photograph you see of Jack Johnson, you see a huge smile on his face because he gave it to the man. He married many white women. They done him for crossing the state line under, I can't remember the name of the act, but there's an act that said you can't cross the state line, and he did, and he was jailed for it.
That's some racist rules.
Oh Jesus! But you remember, he was born. I'm going to say Jack Johnson was probably born in the late 1880s, maybe. So he would have been born. His parents would be slaves. His parents would be slaves, or certainly they would be the children of slaves. So literally, he was born in an environment where black people were still subjugated and treated badly, and he became the first black heavyweight of all time, and they flung white guys into him to beat him, and they battered everybody. And the great white, I think Jim Jeffries was the first great white hope.
Oh, that's right. Great white hope.
They wanted him to beat him. And just even saying that is a horrible thing to say, but they flung everybody up against him. So in a way, I've actually talked myself round to thinking Jack Johnson's got a shout at being the greatest of all time because he changed that legacy. I don't know.
The cat's joined us for a wee chat as well.
So that's interesting, isn't it? Because he was genre defining. He was the first athlete of a long line of athletes, black athletes, Jackie Robinson and O.J. Simpson.
O.J. Simpson. Well,
Jim Brown is probably the one. Jim Brown before him, who became he acted in The Dirty Dozen and all these great films. But so Jim Brown, long line of black athletes who stood up The great photograph of Ali sitting surrounded by black athletes who supported him in his stand against Vietnam. Jackie Robinson, Jim Brown, Joe Louis, all these fighters were all there to say, well done, you know. But he was hated for doing it. Hated. And it was only the end of the Vietnam War, which ended so dramatically badly for America, that his kind of stock value lifted.
Yeah.
I remember watching Ali fighting. I go back to Ali listing the second fight, so 65 I remember. 65 I remember watching it. It could be that it was later in the 60s and I saw a rerun of it, but it was in a giant TV cabinet with a tiny screen, circular screen in the middle. So, and we were such Ali fans, so that I remember. But I completely remember like it was 10 years ago when Ali fought Jerry Quarry. The first fight after his comeback was 1971 or something, 72 maybe, 72.
Pass.
And I remember that so well. But before that, I would have been 12, so when he went off I'd have been 9, and I don't remember so much of the fights before. But Ali was an absolute genius in the boxing ring.
Yeah.
If you look at his fights with Cleveland Williams and Ernie Terrell and these fights, and George Chuvalo and Oscar Bonavena, he was an absolute genius. When he came back, he was a defensive boxer who was striking but was taking blows, and he traditionally didn't train. No matter what people talk about, Ali trained the way he wanted to train, and if he thought he could beat the fighter without training, training camp was just about eating well and running through the mountains, but sparring partners who didn't want to hit him, all that kind of stuff. So Ali came back as a demigod of boxing, really.
But he didn't really train at all.
Didn't
I don't
really
like
train. Didn't do much training. Let his weight would balloon up 3 stone. He would lose the weight, and sometimes he would get caught out and he would turn up and be vastly overweight and stuff. But it was just skill and style that got him through, and that worked right up to the Foreman fight. He took tremendous punishment from Foreman, and then after that it got increasingly more evident that he was getting hit, but he still put up. Ernie Shavers, who was reckoned the greatest puncher of all time, how they work out I don't know, but Ernie Shavers knocked him down, and he didn't remember the rest of the fight after that, and they think that might have been the one that... Ali didn't have Parkinson's disease, you see. Ali had Parkinson's syndrome. So the difference in that is that you've got an illness that recreates
the actual disease.
The disease. So what he had was shaken, lost his speech. In actual fact, it was from blows to the head. It was
scary.
It's very scary. There's a name for it. I can't remember what you call it. The actual Latin name for punch drunkenness, which is a horrible name to describe somebody as that.
Dementia pugilistica.
That's that. Well done. So that's what Ali had. That's actually what he had. Because in the last 10 years of his career, he was 6 years of his career, he was certainly getting banged all about the ring, but his ability to soak up punishment changed the necessity for him to be on his toes all the time. And that's what it was, you know. If you think Ali fought at 215 pounds, which is probably what I weigh just now, if you think about that, as the heavyweight champion of the world at 6'3", he was a big slim man, and even when he fought at 225, he still looked great, but his body was soft, and he wasn't on his toes, and it's just different, you know.
Like, by not going to the draft and going to Vietnam and joining the army, it robbed him of his prime.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I'll tell you something else that boxing robbed us of. I always think this, it upsets me to think about it. Boxing robbed the world of Ali. It robbed us of his charisma, his ability. You know, even when Ali was ill, he went over and met Gaddafi and brought hostages home. He brought 15 hostages out of Libya. Remember the Libyan embassy siege and all that? He brought people home because Gaddafi was a boxing fan. There's a great photograph of Ali sitting, but because it's a still photograph, but he was trembling and he couldn't speak too well. There's a great video, and it's on YouTube, of Ali walking through the streets of the town that he's come to box in. It may have been Dallas, but I can't remember. And he sees a commotion on a building site, and the camera follows him over, and it's a guy going to take his own life in the building site, and Ali goes away up through and sits with him, talks to him and brings him down. So these are incredible things, you know, and I think we've been robbed of that. I think Ali would have been almost, without the political stuff, I think he'd have been a Nelson Mandela figure in civil rights. I think he'd have, around the world, I think he'd have been an ambassador for the country. You know, Jesse Jackson, who goes right back to the Martin Luther King era and is still a huge figure, has become so flawed in history. You look back at Jesse Jackson and you look back at Al Sharpton, and these guys, and they're so exposed by media now. If we had no media, if these people had been go in the 20s, we'd never know. Jesse Jackson dabbed himself with the blood of Martin Luther King to say that he was on the veranda when he gets shot, but he wasn't. He was the first man to come out to the body and dabbed himself with Martin Luther King's blood and put his hands up and said, I was standing right there, and he wasn't. So Ali, boxing sport made him and gave us him, and then took him away from us as well. It's such a almost Shakespearean tragedy, I think.
Yeah, it's a tragedy. It really is.
Yeah. But so I'll argue till the cows come home about Ali being the greatest sportsman of all time.
Sportsman, yeah.
And maybe the greatest sporting icon of the 20th century, or even just icon of the 20th century. And I think George St. Pierre, I can't think of anybody else in mixed martial arts that exemplifies what martial arts is.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you have any queries, questions, any opinions you want to drop, contact me at MMA Patter on Twitter and Instagram. You can find my videos on MMA Patter at YouTube and everything else in my blog on www.mmapatter.com. And look out for future podcasts, videos, blogs, etc. coming soon.